I was thinking of talking about doing eyes, how to do eyelashes. I did a tutorial about this, but God, I hate that I have such a hard time with that angle. Uh, I was gonna do an eyelash tutorial I had already done. Mostly the thing I wanted to talk about was I had done this before, but I think about it quite often because I every so often I don't do it and then I regret it. Which is the idea of I making a little like point here and then drawing an invisible line to make eyelashes so that they're all kind of have a have like a convincing and consistent kind of point of reference for the you're trying to just draw a nice like simple. So like for instance what's happening here is I'm drawing if you were to draw the invisible line it'd be like this, so that we have like a good point, a consistent angle, and then also when it comes to drawing the eyelashes that point towards you, you have a better idea of what of how that should look. I find this to be really, it's not even kind of that rooted in logic, but it's always consistent. Yeah, essentially using like I mean I don't know what this area these two spots represent. I mean it could just be the sphere of the eye. Sure, if you want that to be the case, then sure. I mean that still makes sense. Uh, but the idea is that you when you draw eyelashes, you go to the top of these 2 points, and then you just try to make sure your lines all obey a curve that starts from that point. And it just makes like getting all this stuff to work way easier, because not only is it easier to kind of visualize how an eyelash should come towards you, but it's easier to just get these lines to look correct. Because otherwise what happens is you tend to have some going this direction, then some going this direction, some going this direction, like they don't have a consistent flow. This I feel it really gives that kind of consistent component, and also helps manage how they should look coming towards you, because they should be as visible when they're coming towards you. But if you kind of just build this like fake reference point up here, then it's a lot easier to draw eyelashes, in my opinion. How this works from an angle, I'm not quite sure. It could be pretty simple. Let's see. You know, if the circle's up here, does it work the same? Can you pull the same bullshit move? I don't know. So let's put 2 points. By the way, when I try to like learn and understand stuff, this is what I'm doing. Now, I think it's not as effective from the side, but it still has a value. I think you could still use this. I just find that if you kind of just keep this point in mind, it just gets easier and easier to be consistent with the flow of these things, because when you're trying to figure out which way eyelashes are going, you tend to like, if you create, you tend to like, it starts to go all sorts of places, and that's where it gets all messy. But sorry, what I did here is I drew a plane. So let's say I really wanted to make this mechanical. You just draw a plane and you just keep pulling lines up and going on down this plane, and that'll just get you a pretty consistent eyelash. I don't think it'll work at every angle. I think it's just a bit of a hat. I mean, there's no there's no true logical reason for this to work. This is just an observation I made and it kind of reverse engineered it. Uh, but conceptually, I don't know. I don't know really the reason, but let's go from like the bottom, as you know, from the if you look at an eye from the top, it follows the shape of the sphere a lot more. So you tend to get this. But then, obviously these 2 points would be in perspective, so you may have to shift it. I've never really given this more of a thought than like this angle. But let's experiment. This is how I make my tutorials, by the way. I find a peculiar thing that I try to understand why, if it's consistent in multiple different ways. Like I test it. I go like, oh, like this looks like this. Well, does it look like this in a different angle? So I try to find if it's a method that has a failure point. So let's see what the failure point is. So if I just be dumb and I just always put it, this far away from the top, will this be effective? Well, let's find out. So I'm gonna draw a plane like this. This plane is the eyelash plane. I think I'm gonna make it overlapping as well. This is, if you're ever played a video game, they put these on characters all the time. And I mean, does it work? I mean, yeah. I mean, it does. Honestly, it works. I don't know. It feels like, I mean, the idea is that you're just trying to curve the line towards that dot. Is it perfect? I don't know. So let's try it in a different context. It's not ideal because I feel like this stuff should be like this. So it really does feel like a better approach to this would be to actually move it in respects to 3D. So there might be an actual geometric consideration for all this. Let's take a look at this again. So if we think that this is the bottom here, so let's say it would be here and it would be here. The top and the bottom of the, let's draw the same planes. So now we got, it doesn't feel like it works as good. I mean, I don't know. Does it work at this angle? Not really. So I don't know what the actual like magic of all this is. But it seems to be not something rooted in like actual geometry. It seems to just be like it works in certain cases where it helps you, you know, it helps you just find a consistent way of doing the lashes. It feels like, I know lashes kind of just come out like this. So it feels like the dot should be over here. So maybe that's the issue, is that actually I did this wrong. If I so I didn't interpret this correctly. So if it's top and bottom, the top one would be here and the bottom one would be here. So actually, this might actually be because I just made my guide wrong, my guidelines wrong. So let's do this again. So yeah, if the bottom one is here, then this makes a lot more sense. So maybe it's just the fact that I didn't draw the. So yeah, it looks like it's just to get this shape. You just basically put a dot at the bottom at the top of the eyelid. I never gave it more thought than this. My initial tutorial was just a random fixed spot at the top and the bottom. But really, it seems to be put a spot at the top and bottom of the eye sphere, and use that as your point of reference for how your eyelashes come out. And then you have a consistent curving method of drawing those. Well, I mean, this is what I've always said about when I try to teach and do tutorials, you know, I'm trying to teach people to think, not just to draw like how I do. That's not be able to. So if I were to retrofit what we learned so far and redraw this, I can maybe these results will be more realistic. Maybe this will be like a better because I'm moving a dot to be more at the sorry, at the top of the at the top and bottom of the eye, and it does feel like it has a little more has a little bit more realism to it, more consistency to the eyelashes. So there it is. That's how you do that. That's how I do this. I just find a peculiar thing, see if it gives me a positive result that's pretty consistent. Then I explore it enough until I have a better understanding of exactly what it is it's doing. Um, and then I try to find where the logic resides and the decision to do that.